A large crowd of mourners flocked to Okahanja for the burial of late Ombara Otjitambi Rukoro in defiance of the COVID-19 regulations, which restricts gatherings to 10 people only. Rukoro died last month from COVID-19 complications, aged 66. Video clips of the burial of the late chief that went viral on social media created mixed reactions and raises questions whether the principle of rule of law is practically applicable to all or is only enforced to some. This is not the first burial that sparked public outrage, with state funerals having been mostly observed and criticized for the open defiance of COVID-19 protocols. Inspector General Lieutenant General Sebastian Ndeitunga, however, says the police did all they could to enforce compliance at the said burial. However, it appears their attempts were rendered ineffective as the mourners were determined to disobey. Ndeitunga also says upon assessing the situation, the police could not use minimum force or arrest individuals, as that would have caused pandemonium and lead to a much dire consequence.
They should account for that irresponsible act, defying the health protocols that are there, setting a dangerous precedence, ignoring the rules and the regulatory mechanism put down by government, deliberately probably inviting people to the shrine in a big number. It's a violation of our laws, and someone somewhere should be accountable.
The police chief, however, says an investigation is underway and that charges should be expected. Deputy Inspector General for Operations Joseph Shikongo also questioned why the remains of the paramount chief was allowed to be kept for almost a month as opposed to the prescribed 10 days for COVID deaths. This, Major General Shikongo says, is indicative that non-compliance was predetermined.
It was going to be more worse if you could have used the tear gas. I think the repercussion by now could be even more worse. I think the law enforcement will prevent it a lot, politically and also security-wise. So I think the picture of today could be more different, because when you look at these people, they were looking really for confrontation, and this is what they wanted. Now you take yourself back to the issue that you asked the question, why it took too long, 30 days before the burial. That obviously, that should be the starting point. It's a defiance. These people, they defied the protocol on COVID-19 by keeping the body for 30 days. And that must be the starting point. Why they were allowed to keep the body that died from COVID-19 for 30 days. So obviously, if the body was allowed, that means these people, they had their own autonomy.
Ndeitunga says this recent non-compliance with COVID-19 protocols at burials of prominent figures or those perceived to be elites sets a bad precedence. But Ndeitunga cautioned Namibians not to reason out of emotions, but rather on convictions. Daniel Nadung, NBC News, Windhoek.